Texas football starts conference play this weekend. The NFL season is getting into full swing, and coming up, special guest from the Baylor Lariat Sports editor Michael Haag calls in to talk about the matchup this weekend. All this and more coming up on the 1-0 Sports Show.
Texas finally 1-0, finally riding for the brand.
And I'm getting back on my soapbox saying that if they just hit and rap and drive, then that play doesn't happen.
You heard it here first from Hunter. Book your plane tickets to Omaha today.
But we're not done yet.
No shot. You're not
Are
serious.
you kidding me? So that's the third time.
That's terrible. Did you believe this was possible at the beginning of the season?
Oh, I always believe.
Always drink the Kool-Aid.
That's why I'm for the Cowboys right now.
Today's show is brought to you by Cat Metro, Austin's transit system. We connect you to work, school, play, and everywhere in between. Plan your ride to this weekend's games at catmetro.org. So, Ikey, let's get into it. Let's start with our who's hot and who's not. Ikey, who is hot for this week of football?
So, first, I'm so glad to be back on the show talking sports on a Friday morning. Who's hot? I'm going with the Pac-12 conference, and I know that they're about to destruct in a year, when USC and UCLA leaves. But there's out of 12 teams, 8 of the teams are 3-0 to start the conference. Yeah, USC, even Oregon State 3-0, Washington State's 3-0.
Yep.
All 8 teams are in the top 25, and it's good to see quality football being played in the Pac-12. Playing out west, they don't get a lot of coverage. Colorado is helping them tremendously too. The fact that they're winning, I say Pac-12.
Yeah, they got some great games coming up this week. I can't remember the last time UCLA was 3-0. Speaking of UCLA, I have to love the blue bloods of college football. Duke, Kentucky, North Carolina, Kansas, UCLA, all 3-0, all killing it to start. Duke beat Clemson week 1, shocking the nation, knocking Clemson out of the rankings. UCLA and Kentucky are blowing out teams. Kansas is a gritty team that are playing defense above standards. The Blue Bloods are back. We usually see them in March, but we're seeing them in September right now. It's remarkable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, Kansas is looking real good this year too. They started off, I think it was 5-0 last year, and then they kind of slid down. But I like Kansas, man. They're good. Who's not hot? Who's not hot?
So, I have to go with, unfortunately, both the Vikings and the Chargers, who are both playing each other this week, and one team is going to fall to 0-3. Both these teams came in with high expectations. The Chargers have lost by 5 total points in 2 games, and Minnesota is 0-2 after Kirk Cousins is playing almost perfect football. So unfortunately, both of these teams who had high playoff hopes is going to fall to 0-3 and be in a hole to start the year.
Yeah, that's tough that they're 0-2. I like Kirk Cousins. I saw him on the.
It's hard to hate.
Hard to hate, man. I saw him on the quarterback show on Netflix. He's due. He's due for some wins and some playoff wins too. But I'm gonna go with the Broncos. Starting 0-2. Sean Payton, he came in the offseason talking all this mess about the whole organization, yada yada yada. He was gonna go fix it. He's 0-2. They blew a 21-point lead against the Commanders. He can't necessarily get Russell Wilson to start playing his best ball again. The Broncos are on a downhill slide.
It's 100% tough to see because Sean Payton comes out of retirement from the Saints with a high expectation that he's going to turn around the Broncos, but the Broncos are just not doing much. He had all this talk, all this philosophical work he did with Russell Wilson in the offseason. It's really dark to see that they're 0-2, 100%. Let's move on to what's trending. The NFLPA recently officially requested the NFL to change all playing surfaces to grass. What is your take on the argument, Ikey? Do turf fields really cause more injuries, and should the NFL require all teams to play on grass?
So I think it's important to preface this by saying, injuries are part of the game. They happen all the time in the NFL. But Yes, as far as non-contact injuries go, I've read some studies that injuries do happen more frequently on turf, and we look at other professional sports leagues. Soccer in Europe, the players sign a contract. In their contract, they say, "I will not play on turf. I will only play on grass." And I think for the NFL, the owners have to take some responsibility. It costs more money to maintain a grass field, but they need to take some responsibility, stand up for their players, and maybe the players can put it in their contracts too. And when the World Cup's coming to the U.S., the NFL stadiums that are hosting, they're putting grass in there. So if they're going to do that for the World Cup coming to the U.S. in a couple years, it's definitely reasonable to, do it for their players in the NFL. I just think.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I just think it can be turf overall is dangerous. Like I just don't see like the why not to going back to grass. Like turf fields are not great for ankles, and the NFL is a game of quick cutting and quick movements, and that is just not. That's not going to help you with your ankle on the turf field. So yeah, I'm 100% with you on that. The turf needs to go in the NFL.
Yeah, and also some players are going out and saying that turf's also just a harder playing surface, to play on, and I think it would help the players,
Yeah, no.
Playing on grass, it's softer surface,
100%. Yeah, what you saw with Rodgers this couple weeks ago, sucked. Turf field went down on the Achilles. So yeah, college football. We're now in 3 weeks in. Who is your early Heisman favorite, Ikey?
I'm gonna go with Quinn Ewers, and I'm wearing a Texas shirt today on the broadcast, but I think his play has backed it up. A lot of people were doubting this Texas team, not really giving him a chance to go 3-0. But you see it here. Quinn Ewers, with the deep ball, he connected on like 7 deep balls against Alabama. Everyone was doubting him, and similar to Shedeur Sanders on Colorado, these two teams both have a bunch of hype around them, and if they keep winning, Texas especially, if Texas runs the table in the Big 12 is playing the college football playoff, man, Quinn, he has a real good shot at winning the Heisman. I really think so.
Yeah, I wouldn't be the guy to hate Quinn Ewers winning a Heisman at all, but I'm gonna have to go to Southern California and choose the winner from last year, Caleb Williams. There's a couple factors to this. First of all, he's playing big schools this year. His schedule is very difficult. Colorado, Washington, Utah, Notre Dame, Oregon, UCLA. That's a bunch of opportunity for him to go out there and prove himself as the #1 quarterback in college football, #1 player in college football. And there's also another reason. This team is averaging 56 points. This team is getting at least 56 points a game. Caleb has 939 total yards in 3 games, passing and rushing, and he has 12 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and he's also doing phenomenal in the pocket. In 3 games, he's only been sacked 3 times. So I would love to see Quinn, but I just think Caleb Williams is going to have it back this year. So yeah, we here at TSTV, have our own fantasy football league going, but there have been some players who have not been helping us. There's been some disappointing performances after 2 weeks and 1 Thursday night football game. So, Ikey, who is your biggest fantasy bust?
So there's in the running back room. I would say if I didn't have to pick one specific player, I'd pick the whole running back room. Dobbins, Saquon Barkley, Eckler, Nick Chubb, Jonathan Taylor, just all of them, they're dropping like flies. They're getting hurt. And it's making for an odd fantasy season. Half the teams in my league are just praying that someone's just going to gift him a running back, in trade. But Joe Burrow's had a rough start to the year. Their Bengals are 0-2. But I think he'll turn it around. The Bengals started 0-2 last year, obviously they don't want to start 0-2, but Joe's a good player. I think he'll turn it around. But quarterbacks, Burrow, and just the whole running back room in general, it's been a tough year. It's been a tough year for running backs, I'd say.
Yeah, no, I have to agree. One of my bigger fantasy busts this year is Josh Jacobs. This guy who went second round in some of my leagues last week alone. He had 9 carries for -2 yards. Week 1, he had, I believe, 19 carries for 48 yards. He's just not producing. He's not doing what he did last year. And Josh Jacobs can come back there. The rest of his schedule is very easy as far as a run defense goes. Another one you mentioned, Joe Burrow. I think Jamar Chase, who's went second overall in most drafts, is the wide receiver 54 right now. The wide receiver 1 for the Bengals is wide receiver 54 in fantasy football. And yeah, you mentioned George Kittle. I think the entire tight end position has been busting so far this year. Darren Waller's averaging 10 points in 2 weeks, and he is position rank 4. Something's odd going on with this position in football, and I'm not liking it.
Yeah, and well, I guess it's only 2 weeks in. That's the thing. It's only 2 weeks in, so things can quickly turn around, which is the beauty of football, beauty of the game.
Yeah, 100%. All right, when we come back, it is versus. We have guest Santiago Ortiz to judge, and we'll be right back.
Welcome back to the 1&0 Sports Show. Me and my co-host, Zach Davis. We are joined by Santiago Ortiz.
How you guys doing this morning?
Phenomenal. How are you?
I'm pretty amped up, excited to be on the show, making my TSTV debut. So
TSTV debut, baby. Yep.
Pretty excited.
Well, he's going to be the judge today. This segment, we have me and Zach give our best plays of the week, and Santiago's going to be the judge. So let's hop right in.
Yeah, so my favorite, I got to start with the best plays for the college football week 3. Great week of college football. My favorite play personally was seeing Shiloh Sanders get his pick 6. A great moment. Kid finally gets a little bit of recognition. I feel like he's been in the shadow of Shador for most of the beginning of the year, but he has been killing it. Dion said he had to take a break being a coach in his press conference so he can have a special moment with his kid and be a dad. Something not seen in college football very often, and it was just phenomenal to see.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's not very often you see at a high level like D1 football a coach coaching one kid on the same team, much less 2 kids. It's special. But my play of the third week of the college football season, J.J. McCarthy. How often do you see a flea flicker? Flea flickers don't happen. You see it in high school.
Not often.
You don't really see it in college. Well, watch this, folks. J.J. McCarthy, the flea flicker, he guns it downfield, and to Cornelius Johnson,
Wow.
he bobbles it, and he somehow he came up with it. I mean, it was a spectacular play. That's my play of the week. You know, the flea flicker and the bobble at the end. Not even the defender hit it, and he still came up with it and he ran to the end zone. So that's my play of the week.
I feel like the Big Ten is a very conservative, like, league
Lots
of
of
football.
running the ball.
A lot
lots
of running,
long
not a lot of creativity. Like the SEC, the
good
Big
point.
12, you'll see some creativity, but you don't see that in the Big Ten. So nice to see JJ really throwing the ball.
Those were both really nice plays. I really liked. Yeah, that was a miraculous play. Defender bats it up. He somehow catches it. But I think I'm gonna have to go with Shiloh Sanders right here. You know, he's moving up Dion's power rankings. I don't know if you've seen Dion. He likes to power rank his kids in his Instagram posts. He puts them 1 through 5. I think Shiloh's gonna be moving up. He was kind of at the bottom, but after that play, you know, that was a big momentum changer. He got him back into the game, led to the win in double overtime. So gonna have to go with Shiloh on that one.
Well, I respect it. You know, great play. Moving on to the NFL. Best week 2 NFL play. I'm gonna go with Russell Wilson. At the end of the game, the Hail Mary. The Broncos were playing the Commanders. They blew a 21-point lead, and they were behind. And then Russell Wilson. The Hail Marys have like a 6% success rate, and it was a tip play drill. And I was sitting there watching it on my couch. I saw it live, and I was like, "Holy cow!" You know, it was amazing to watch. And they failed the 2-point conversion afterwards, but you know, I saw the Hail Mary. Has to be the best play of the week in my book.
You know, as a Commanders fan, that was a very tough moment for me. When that happened, I didn't say a word until after the 2-point conversion because they did need the 8. So it was nice to see. It was nice to see them. There was a debatable PI happen at the end. Not complaining their flags were drawn, but it was what a great game. What a great way to end it in Denver too. I gotta go. My favorite play this week's gotta be the Texas X Brandon Schooler coming off the edge for the Patriots with the blocked kick, comes out.
Look at the timing.
Bang, perfect timing, comes from the sideline down and the Patriots do end up losing 24-17 in this one, but look at him come around, waits, drives around, and then off the snap, kicker had no chance. I think this play will change special teams football. Like teams have to emulate plays like this now, right? Like how can you not want to try this? It's stopping 3 points. I can win you a game.
And no, it was cool. I think he was looking at the snapper. Like the snapper had some sort of
some tell.
A tell. The snapper had a tell. Like when you're reading a pitcher in baseball, if you have to tell on pitches, it's cool to see that transferred into the special teams game. And that's probably going to bleed over to the high school game a lot too. You'll see kids doing that. What do you think about Santiago?
Yeah, no, I think that's a miraculous play. I mean, you look at like the timing that he has. That just goes to show Bill Belichick. He really puts that emphasis on special teams, and that's always been, you know, a staple of his teams. You got guys like Matthew Slater that's been doing it up there for years. But yeah, for this highlight, I think I have to go with the Hail Mary. I mean, it's just that's just crazy when you get the ball batted 3 times, and you somehow goes right into his hands, even though they did lose the game. I think that one was pretty crazy. And I don't know if y'all have ever watched That's Good Sports on YouTube. Brandon Perna, big Broncos fan. Look up his reaction to the Hail Mary and the 2-point conversion if you have some free time. But yeah, gonna go with the Hail Mary on this one.
Yeah, and it was really cool seeing the field goal block too. Brandon School, a UT alum.
Yeah,
man.
sir.
You know, yeah. Moving on, we did college football, we did NFL. Now we are moving to the MLB, getting close to playoff time. Zach, what is your MLB highlight of the week?
I gotta go with the Phillies. Nick Castellanos, double play from right field to force extra innings, gets the pop up, turns around, tags the runner coming into home, bang. See him just beat the bag. Phillies would go on to win 6-5 in the 10th, and Castellanos won the game for them with that double play from back of right field.
Yeah, and especially that, you know, it was to force extra innings, and those those bang bang plays at the plate, they're real exciting to watch, especially in person. In person, would have been amazing. But yeah, no, it was a great play. That kid had a rocket, man. He had a rocket.
Yeah,
he had a great arm. Yeah, moving on. My play of the week, the Wednesday, the athletics. It was a great play. The shortstop, he's a slow roller, kind of dribbler up the middle. And Diaz, the shortstop, sorry, I was blanked on the name. But it was a slow roll play.
Oh my
and then the first baseman, he gets rid of it, and the first baseman just does a split. I mean, look at that. Talk about full extension. I mean, that's the definition of full extension right there. Just an athletic play on both sides. And that's a hard play, coming in at shortstop. That's a hard play in first base, stretching out like that, making the out. And I played baseball growing up, so I'm a little biased. I don't know. That's a great play.
Yeah.
That's a hard play to make, too.
It's just the daily reminder that I can't play first base in MLB.
Hey, me neither. Yeah.
No, I mean, yeah, that play was amazing. I don't think I could even contort my body like that, just standing up straight, much less trying to catch a ball and getting out. So I'll have to go with that one. I think that was just, it's also visually amazing to look at. But yeah, that was a pretty remarkable play by that first baseman right there.
Well, moving on to bloopers. They happen all the time in sports. Zach, what is your biggest blooper from this past
This
week?
one made my week, Ikey. I'm glad you asked me first.
Made your
Stephen
week,
A. came to New York, Yankee Stadium, to throw out the first pitch, and he did not. Look at him hang his head. He was in, and you can't hear it, but the crowd booed and booed and booed. He knew what he did wrong. There's no coming back from it. And yeah, tough one to watch, but it was definitely a hilarious moment.
And Stephen, it happens. It happens. There's been some horrendous first pitches. Yeah, that's tough, Stephen A. And but good that you had the experience if you're watching this show. My blooper, it wasn't from this past week. It was from week 2 of college football. It was Ball State and Georgia. Georgia ended up blowing them out of the water. But the Ball State quarterback, he threw an interception, and it hit the receiver's back leg and bounced up. Look at it. I mean, he throws it, it hits him in the heel and bounces up.
Oh,
that's awful.
And then Georgia picks it off.
Only Georgia could do that too.
Oh yeah, and that's one of those games you see, you're playing Madden and it just glitches and something like that happens. That's what that reminded me of. I know it's not from this past week, but I saw it. I feel like that didn't get enough publicity. You know what I'm saying? But yeah.
Yeah, that was a crazy play, but I have to go with Stephen A. I mean, Stephen A, probably talks a lot about your team, talks a lot about my teams. Very, very, arrogant sports personality. So to see him go out there and kind of fail like that, it's almost a little bit satisfying. But
it's nice to watch. It doesn't hurt to see.
Yeah, very blasphemous first pitch by Stephen A right there.
He's always criticizing these pitchers, and he goes out there and he can't even reach the mound.
See, I have a little sympathy. When I was 7, I threw out the first pitch at a Round Rock Express game, and it wasn't pretty.
You were 7 years old.
I was 7. You're right. He's a grown man.
Yeah.
You're right. That's a good point.
So yeah, come on, Stephen A. You got to be better. You got it.
Looking right at you, Stephen A.
Now, moving on to volleyball. Zach, what was your best volleyball play this week?
Yeah, so Purdue had a home game against UCF and really blew them out of the water. It only took them 3 sets. They got out of it clean. Great hits from both sides. UCF really did not put much of a fight. In some of the sets, they got to 20, 21, 22 points, but Purdue basically was in control for the entire game. So it's nice to see those girls destroy UCF and just keep control of the Big Ten right now.
Yeah, definitely good to see them sweep UCF. My highlight, I came across it and I had to get it in the show somehow. It was Texas A&M was playing Mississippi State, and it was a great play. It wasn't a long rally, but she keeps it alive there, and then just immediately into the spike. Oh, here it comes. Yeah, she keeps it alive, and then boom, spike. No set or anything. It was a nifty play, and I don't know if they have scramble drills in volleyball, but that's really the closest thing to it that I've seen. Yeah, I don't know. It was a fun play to watch.
Yeah. Those are both great moments. I think this might be a tiebreaker. I'm not sure if we're keeping track. Pretty sure we're at 2-2 right now. But yeah, I think I'm going to have to go with the A&M or Mississippi State game. That play was nice. You know, it had the setter, she gets it right off the ground, gets it all the way up, and that's just powerful spike. But we hope to see some more of our Texas ladies back in there, our repeating national champions, hopefully. But yeah.
Yeah, so that wraps up the B block. I lose again. I don't know if you guys saw my show on Wednesday, but I lost by 1-2. So 0-2.
It was a toss up.
But it's all right. Me and Santiago, we might be friends after. We'll see. But thanks for joining us, man. Appreciate it. Appreciate the judging, and yeah, we'll be right back.
Yeah. It's a nice block.
That was fun. Next one too.
Welcome back to our next block where we are ranking teams. We are doing conference championship picks and the worst Big 12 team in football for the upcoming season. So I first have to ask you, Ikey, what is your top 5 in the Big 12?
Yeah, and I'm glad we're talking about this today. It's gonna be December before we know it, and Big 12. I don't think it's gonna. I think it's gonna be a 3-team race. I think it's going to be between Texas, Kansas, and OU. And that's actually the first three of my top 5. Texas, I think once I think OU's always going to give Texas trouble. I mean, they didn't last year at all, but this year is going to be it's always going to be a tight game. I think Texas wins that game and runs away with it. I think Kansas beats Oklahoma. It was a close game last year. Jalen Daniels for Kansas. He's a good player, man. He's a good quarterback. I think Texas, Kansas, Oklahoma, and I think BYU sneaks up there, gets in the mix. I think they get 4th. They're 3-0. They beat Arkansas last week, and at least if they can beat Arkansas, they can beat teams like West Virginia and Kansas State and Oklahoma State. No disrespect to those teams, but I think West Virginia gets 5th place. Yeah, that's my top 5. What about yourself?
Yeah, no, mine's pretty similar. I got Texas at 1. I got OU at 2. 2 teams I really love this year. TCU at 3. I think their game against Colorado was, I'm not going to say a fluke, but it was definitely a game where they could have played better, and a game where they, if they did win, they'd be higher up in the rankings. I think that team is not being respected as much right now. I think Kansas State also took a tough loss to a good Missouri team in the SEC. There's something about Kansas State that's fun to watch. They get the ball moving on the ground and in the air. And also in 5th, Kansas. Kansas looks great. They're 3-0. Something we knew coming into the year was that their offense was going to be good, but how good is their defense going to be? And their defense has impressed. Kansas is killing it on both sides of the floor, both sides of the field. They dominating who they're playing, and they're fun to watch. It's just overall, this is a very competitive Big 12 league this year, don't you think? You got great teams all around the board, and the rankings might not be showing it right now, but these teams are very competitive, and these teams, especially the ones that are coming into the Big 12, are very hungry to show that they belong there. Don't you think?
Yeah, I think so. You mentioned the additions. Cincinnati, they're going to be fun to watch in the Big 12. UCF, it's going to be fun to watch. I have them picked as my worst team in the Big 12, but it'll be cool seeing them play Big 12 teams. And TCU is a good pick in the top 5. It was the first week, but that's the thing about conference play as far as winning the Big 12 goes. Everyone's 0-0 in Big 12. We saw Steve Sarkisian talk about it in his press conferences this past week. Everyone's 0-0 in the Big 12, so anything can happen.
So, yeah, a lot of great teams in the Big 12. Who can you see playing in the conference championship?
So I see Texas playing Kansas in the Big 12 championship. That's my prediction, but I can also see OU replacing Kansas. OU, Dylan Gabriel coming back. He's had another year to be in that offensive system, and their offense is averaging something like 56 points a game. Like they're looking solid through the first 3 weeks. So I see in Texas's defense has been absurdly good. This is the best defense we've seen in 10 years. So I see Texas and Kansas and OU mixed in there.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna have to stick with a hard Texas OU, and this rivalry I think this year is going to be like nothing we've seen before. Both these teams are great, but I feel like both these teams think they can make the playoffs. So I would not be surprised if Texas OU, either Texas wins in the regular season and OU wins in the conference championship, or OU will win in Dallas and Texas will win in the conference championship. I think both of these teams will end up fighting for that 4th playoff spot.
Yeah, that's a good point. As far as playoffs, I think the winner, if Texas and or OU runs the table in the regular season, the winner's going to go to the playoff. And it'll be the last year that there's a 14 playoff. So, and the last year Texas and OU in the Big 12, wouldn't that be something if there's a little
be great to watch. I think it'd be a little quarterfinal game for the playoffs.
Oh yeah, and a little goodbye kiss to the Big 12.
Yeah, 100%. So those are our winners. Who do you think is going to finish last in the Big 12 this year?
I'm gonna go. I said it earlier. I'm gonna go with UCF. I'm just not super impressed with them, and I say UCF, but also Oklahoma State. I mean, they got blown out by South Alabama, and I think UCF's definitely gonna have a tough time in the Big 12, but who knows? Every year there's an unexpected team that kind of takes everyone by storm in the Big 12. Last year it was Kansas at the beginning.
Yeah.
It could be one of those new teams.
No, 100%. I just think it's the competitive nature of it all, of just joining the Big 12. They're here now, but they got to prove themselves. UCF's been great in the past in the in their past conference. They went undefeated, and it was people were debating if they should be in the playoffs. So yeah, I mean, who knows what will happen? I think Houston is looking very bad this year. They got nothing going for them. They just lost to Rice 43-41. They got blown out by TCU by 23 points. An embarrassing showing for the Houston Cougars. They joined the Big 12 after wanting to be in the Big 12, after saying their competition in the American was too uncompetitive for them, and now they're here and they opened their Big 12 season by losing by 23 at home. Are you kidding me, Ikey?
Yeah, I mean that just shows. I mean, again, they lost to TCU. That just shows TCU's no slouch. And it's gonna be interesting to see Texas go play at Houston. And there's a lot of Texas fans that go. I don't necessarily think it'll be a close game, but just having football, it'll be a good thing for football in the state of Texas. Texas playing out of Houston, and
yeah.
That's all for talking about the Big 12. And moving on, at the end of the commercial break, you won't want to miss it. We're having the Baylor Lariat sports reporter Michael Haag come on and talk with us about Baylor football. Give us a preview about tomorrow's game at 6 p.m. at Waco. So you won't want to miss it. Stay tuned.
We'll leave it to the folks that like actually have gear, because I'm more than capable of just walking. It's not Baylor's not that big of a campus, and it's not that far of a walk to get to McLean. So I'm probably gonna walk, but we'll see. And I know for those that are driving to the game, the media lot's gonna be really like packed.
Yeah.
So I'm like advising people to get there very early. We'll see. But yeah, that's kind of my plan right now.
So y'all have y'all's own media lot.
Yeah, it's like
that's kind of.
Probably, I don't know how.
Welcome back to the One and Only Sports Show. I'm with my colleague Zach Davis. I'm Ikey Kohler, and we are fortunate enough to be joined by the Baylor Lariat sports reporter Michael Haag. Thanks for joining us tonight, Michael. How you doing today? Thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah, no, I'm doing well. It's always good to talk to some other student journalists, student media folks, and really happy to be here. Really appreciate y'all letting me on the show.
So Michael, I gotta ask, who should Texas fans look out for come game day?
Yeah. Okay. Great question. I think really, obviously, most fans are probably going to look at the quarterback, right? No Blake Shapen for the Bears this week once again. So you're looking at a guy in Sawyer Robertson who doesn't have a lot of collegiate experience. He's only got 2 starts under his belt now, and he's been struggling, I'd say, to take care of the ball, and he's been a little inefficient. He's also been nursing an ankle injury, but I'm not really going to use that as an excuse or anything. I think he's just really kind of learning how to play at this level, and so that's a guy that you're going to look out for. Baylor's leading rusher, Dominic Richardson, is doubtful for this game with a high ankle sprain, so I'm not expecting him to play. I don't know if they're going to try to rush the guy back for this Texas game. The unique thing about that, though, is Baylor's running back room is really strong. So other names to look for in that room would be obviously Richard Reese, y'all are probably familiar with from last year. Baylor's leading rusher then. A little bit of a slow start to the year now that we've added Dominic Richardson from the portal, but Richard Reese can really get it going if he gets the ball out wide, things like that. And then there's a pair of freshmen who really played well last week, Dawson Pendergrass and Bryson Washington. Those are 2 guys that run hard, and it's pretty cool to see for a couple of true freshmen. But those names offensively, for sure. There's a guy, Keytron Jackson, wide receiver, who can make one-on-one plays out wide. Hal Presley is pretty solid. The O-line's spotty, and then on the defensive side of the ball, Gabe Hall, TJ Franklin are 2 big names on the front. And then there's a couple of true freshmen that are corners that are actually playing really well, and like Caden Jenkins and Tevin Williams, guys like that. So those are just a few names for sure to kind of look out for.
Yeah, that's not too often you see a couple like true freshman running backs making an impact. And then Sawyer Robertson, he's a true freshman too, right?
So he's a redshirt sophomore.
Okay,
that's
right.
He transferred from Mississippi State, and he has never started before coming to Baylor. Like, he had never gotten a start in a college game. So yeah. And I'm looking. I mean, he's a pretty big dude. He's 6'4", 220. Oh yeah. He's really got the frame.
And I was watching him play against Utah. He was playing against Utah, right?
Yeah, he was the one who started against Utah.
Yeah, he gave y'all a chance to win. Definitely.
He did. I thought he played fairly well. He played a lot better in that game than he did, I'd say, against Texas State and really Long Island too. But just ultimately kind of came up short in the Utah game.
Right.
So yeah, I'm looking with all these factors in place with the injuries and whatnot. How do you think Baylor's looking for the rest of the season? What's your expectation with them?
Yeah, obviously it's a little bit of an underwhelming start for a Baylor fan's liking, I guess you could say. I know a lot of people were predicting maybe an 8-4, just given the 8 home games. I mean, Baylor's, I think, the only team in the country with 8 home games on its schedule. Obviously, that's the most in program history too, and so there was a lot of high expectations, really, especially coming off of the 6 and 7 year that Baylor had last year. And, a 1-2 start, including a loss to Texas State, that's going to change that a little bit. I mean, I predicted going into this year 6 and 6 because I wasn't really too. I wasn't too enthused about this team. Like, nothing really moved the needle for me. I just thought, while there were some key additions in the portal and things like that, I wasn't too much of a I wasn't going to jump on the, this team's going to bounce back train just yet. And I think we're seeing some, obviously some early season woes and things like that. But to answer your question, I mean, it's hard, man. Like, I'm looking at this schedule, and it's hard to pick a couple more wins. It's just, the issue with it is you don't know which Baylor team you're going to see, because if Baylor's defense and the energy comes out like it did against Utah, I mean, that's a pretty formidable opponent. I know Cam Rising wasn't playing for Utah, and that would have made it a different story. But, I mean, Baylor's got a pretty solid team when it plays with that energy, and that's something that they've been struggling with. They didn't come out with energy against Long Island, and they're trying to work through how to best combat that issue. And like I said, tale of two teams. If we see the team that showed up against Utah, this is a team that could find itself in a bowl game. I think I don't know how much more than 6 wins it could get if it could even get there. Right now, I'm not thinking this team wins 6 games, but I mean, we'll see. I think this weekend is a huge game for Baylor for obvious reasons, but it could really turn the season around because given the 1-2 start, including a loss to Texas State, if you beat a number 3 Texas team, then obviously all of those frustrations among the fan base kind of go away. And I think there's a new life in this program that would be ignited with a win over Texas. But so it's a critical week, and that's not to say it's a make or break week for Baylor. I don't think the season's doomed if you lose, but it could really kind of turn the season around in a big way.
So yeah, you brought up the game and what it means to Baylor and the fans this weekend. What is your prediction for the game? Realistically, how do you think this game's going to go?
Yeah, I don't think Baylor's going to be able to win this one. Not in the slightest. I think coming out of the Utah game, the Long Island game, I was kind of walking I was writing my story, and in my head I was thinking like, Texas is going to roll into Waco next week and put up like 50 on them. Like this could get really ugly very quickly. Like if just because of the way Baylor came out against that FCS Long Island team, I was like, if Baylor plays like this, like Texas is going to not only take its lunch money, but just absolutely toy with them. Like it's going to be embarrassing. And but I talked myself down a little bit from that. I thought, Baylor's at home. It's not. If it was in Austin, this would be a different story. Obviously Baylor's got the advantage of being here at McLean for the 4th straight week. I mean, think about it. Baylor hasn't even been on the road this year yet. So there's familiarity. Baylor has nothing to lose. It's 1-2. That's not to say all the pressure is on Texas, but I think there is more pressure on Texas, especially now that it's in the national spotlight and it's has aspirations of pushing for a CFP, pushing for a Big 12 title. So it's the start of conference play. It's a blank slate. I liked what Steve Sarkisian said on Monday. The Big 12 doesn't care that we're 3-0. The Big 12 doesn't care that we beat Bama or anything like that. So it's a clean slate for everyone. And but yeah, like I said, realistic expectations. I don't think Baylor's gonna win. I'm expecting it to stay relatively close if Baylor comes out with the energy like it did against Utah. I think my honest prediction, I think it's going to be similar to what Texas saw last week with Wyoming. I think it'll stay too close for Texas's liking for most of it. Like, I know Texas didn't want it to be that close for that long, but I think ultimately, I don't know if Texas is going to have a 21-point fourth quarter like it did, but I think Texas will kind of pull away late and win comfortably enough just to get the job done. Maybe 10 to 14 points, 17. I don't know if it'll be like a 3-possession game. It could get that way if Texas gets rolling and Baylor doesn't answer, but because Texas is more than capable. But I think you'll probably see Texas win, by about 10 to 14 points, something like that. Just like a nice, comfortable win.
Yeah, that's a good point, and you're right. You mentioned the Wyoming game. It was a little bit of a slow start for Texas. I want to ask you about the culture surrounding the Baylor football program. I like how the student section is just packed full of students, front row, front and center. They run out on the field. I think it was during the Utah game. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it was over 100 degrees, and they had the fire hydrant hose just like spraying water. And then I really like Dave Aranda too. I think he's a down to earth, like humble guy. I think he's a good coach. But in your experience with interacting with head coach Aranda and with this Baylor football program, can you speak kind of, what's been your experience interacting with him, with Coach Aranda and the Baylor team?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I really do like kind of what you had talked about with the Baylor line tradition. I think it's to me, it's like the coolest freshman tradition in the country. You're not going to see anything quite like that. You get to campus in your first year, and You get a chance to run out on the field in a frenzy with your friends, and then get front row seats to a Big 12 football game against Texas. If you fall under that year where you host Texas, like that's a really cool thing, and especially with how successful Texas has been, makes the conference look good. And now, Baylor people have the chance to sit front row and watch the number 3 team in the country. Like, that is a really cool thing. That's an invaluable experience to me. I mean, I'm thinking to myself, man, if I'm a freshman, how could I not want to? I don't even care if I'm a football person. Like,
Right.
You want to experience that, especially since this is the last game, likely in a really long time, between Baylor and Texas. And but to answer your question better about the culture and about Dave, I like Dave a lot. He's a much he's a much different head coach than you'll see across the country. I don't know if y'all watch any of his pressers or kind of hear him talk. He's so stoic and so just, like you said, just real down to earth, real quiet, real calculated. You can tell like the gears are always turning in that guy's head. It's interesting, man. And obviously Baylor fans, when he's winning, they love him. That's with any coach. When he's winning, everyone's calling him the Jedi, and they're saying he's the most genius coach in the world. And now off to a 1-2 start with losses to Texas State, it's like, is it working? Is this stoic, composed approach? Is it working? Do we need a head coach with more energy? Because if you think about like Joey McGuire, who was at Baylor, I mean, now he's at Tech making moves and making things happen. That's a guy with a lot of energy. He's got fire. And so people are, pointing to Dave, was Joey the energy? It's just, there's all sorts of things like that. But again, from my experience, I like Dave. I'm not on the train of, let's get rid of Dave and let's start it. Like, Dave's a good guy. I think he's a good coach. And I think you just got to kind of wait and see what happens. Because again, if you beat Texas, all is forgiven. Everyone's not talking about the rough start and it's all over. But we'll just kind of have to wait and see. Dave's a little bit of a different guy, but I think he's obviously proven he can be successful at this level. But I think you just got to give him a little bit more time to kind of see.
Yeah. No, I'm excited to see the Baylor season. I really think you guys are being judged a little early. You guys took one tough loss to Texas State, but there's a lot of, it's only uphill from here, right? There's nothing wrong with playing nothing to lose football. But yeah, I appreciate you joining us, Michael. You were great. Nice to have you, man. And I'll see. Good luck this weekend.
Yeah, hey, I really appreciate it, y'all. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. Enjoyed it.
All right, when we come back, we are doing our pick'em. Santiago is coming back, and he will be here helping us choose some games like Ole Miss, like Monday Night Football, like Cowboys, Cardinals, and much, much more right after the break.
welcome back to the One and O Sports Show. We are joined again by Santiago as a guest picker. We're going to give our picks for college football games this week and a few NFL games sprinkled in. Yeah, we got some great matchups this week, especially in the Pac-12. UCLA, Utah, Oregon State, Washington State, Colorado plays Oregon. A lot of ranked matchups this week overall in the NFL too. So yeah, let's get going. First, we got number 15 Ole Miss playing at Alabama. Saturday 2:30 on CBS. Alabama's around a 7 points favorite. What do y'all thinking?
I talked about this on Wednesday, Ikey, and I just think Ole Miss is going into Tuscaloosa and they're going to walk away with a win. Nick Saban will be retired after this week. Havoc will be brought to Tuscaloosa, and there will be so much glory across the rest of America.
I mean, that's a crazy take to go on record with. I'm gonna go more, plain vanilla. I just got Bama winning. I think there's been a lot of talk, about who their quarterback is the dynasty over, and especially with Georgia's last 2 years, Nick Saban's been wanting to prove a point for a long time. I think this week he proves it, especially against Lane Kiffin, guy who talks a lot of trash to Nick Saban especially, and I can't see Bama losing at home twice in a season. I don't know when the last time that happened, so I don't think I can see it. I got Bama winning big this week.
Yeah, I'm with you, Santiago. That's a good point. You mentioned I don't think Nick Saban has lost twice at home in the same season. But as far as my pick, I got Bama by a million. I don't see Ole Miss going in there and putting up. They've had their QB problems. They've had I think Jalen Milroe is a good quarterback. Jalen Milroe, I think he's a good quarterback. A lot of people were blaming him for the Texas loss, but our defensive line was on him the whole game.
There's some bad picks.
Yeah,
he did throw some bad picks, but we're pressured. Anyway, my point is, Bama by a million. Nick Saban's not going to retire. I think he's still that guy in college football.
That was a joke, by the way. Saban will finish the season at least. But.
Yeah. All right, moving on. Number 22 UCLA. They're going into Utah. Saturday 2:30 on Fox. Who you got?
I gotta go with the Blue Bloods, man. Like, how can you not root for them? These guys, we're not supposed to watch these guys play during this time of year. We're supposed to wait till like November to start. Like, this is a March school, so yeah. UCLA, they're gonna improve to 4-0. It'll be ridiculous. They're gonna go into Utah and they're gonna shock the nation.
Yeah, I really like UCLA, but I think it just has to go with Utah. I don't think Cameron Rising is gonna play, but their backup has been doing pretty good. And at home, it's a tough place to play. We saw it 3 weeks ago with Florida. They thought they were going to go in their SEC team. But, Utah, their fans really bring it. So I got them winning this game by about 2 touchdowns.
I'm siding with Utah. It's another matchup. It's another matchup of 2 undefeated Pac-12 teams. And I watched Utah play Florida, and it was a week 0 matchup. It was before all the other games, but I was pretty impressed by Utah. And then they squeaked by Baylor. I'm gonna go with the Utes of Utah, going 4-0. Now this is a really intriguing matchup. Oregon State versus Washington State. Oregon State, DJ Uyunglele, the Clemson transfer, is leading them. They're both undefeated. Saturday, it's at Washington State. It's in Pullman. Great environment. This is an interesting matchup. What are y'all thinking?
Yeah, so this is kind of a game I kind of circled on my schedule. It's the last two Pac-12 teams left. It's a big game for them. They're actually both having very good seasons compared to what they've been doing in the past. I love Oregon State here. I think they're a good team. They're gritty. They're old. They're tough. They did very well in the transfer portal, and this is a prove-it game for them. I think they're going to come out on top.
Yeah, I agree with Zach right here. I think DJ, he's really having a good season, bouncing back after getting benched last year to true freshman Cade Klubnik. And, he's had a lot of haters to prove wrong. But I got Oregon State winning this one. I think Washington State will put up a fight, keep it close, but Oregon State will pull away.
Yeah, this is the first year in some time that Oregon State's, I think, they've been ranked in football. But yeah, not so fast, fellas. I'm going with Washington State. I'm going with Washington State. I'm going with the Cougars, with the Cougs. And that's because of Nakia Watson. He's a running back transfer. He transferred in from Wisconsin. He's an Austin native, and I'm from Austin, so got to ride.
Hometown heroes.
Got to go with my fellows. I'm going Washington State, but it's gonna be a great matchup. I'm gonna tune into that game. It's gonna be a good game to watch. Moving on, number 6 Ohio State going into Notre Dame. This could potentially be a college football playoff eliminator matchup. One of them, they're both undefeated. One of them's going down Saturday at 6:30. They're playing in the Cathedral at Notre Dame. What are y'all thinking? What you got?
Well, first of all, what a great game day to have so early in the season. A top 10 team. I think Ohio State has served to be a pretty underwhelming team so far. They've been winning games, but they haven't been winning by as much. I don't think they've covered in any of the games they've played. But it's hard to root against their wide receiver combination and running back of Trayvon Henderson and then Marvin Harrison and then Egbuka. They all just strike the field. Those are all first round picks. I just think their offense is too powerful to go against. So I have to go with the Ohio State University.
Yeah, well, I'm going to pick the upset here. I really like Notre Dame. I mean, I think the Catholics, they're going to go in there. They're led by 6-year senior Sam Hartman. 6 years in college. I mean, hey, some people, that's their path. But anyways, I think Sam Hartman, he's going to play a good game. And, in past years we've seen Notre Dame where they get in the college football playoff and then they have these games like where they just can't get anything going on offense, can't even get a first down. This year, to see them finally have a good quarterback, I think it's a big game changer for them. And I think they're going to make a big program statement win for Marcus Freeman and the Fighting Irish.
Yeah, I like Coach Friedman. I like what he's doing with that team. They're playing at Notre Dame. Gonna have a huge home field advantage, but I got to go with the Buckeyes. I just don't think Notre Dame's ready for this kind of marquee matchup. We saw it was a year or two ago they beat Clemson. They beat Clemson and then they went on to lose in the ACC championship game. Notre Dame's getting there. They've been on the cusp of making a playoff, but they haven't had that. They haven't had that final push. I'm going Ohio State. I'm going with the Buckeyes. Now, Texas at Baylor. We just had Michael Haag on to talk about it in the previous segment. Enjoyed talking to him. Thanks to him for coming on. Texas, the over-under is 51.5. Texas is 15-point favorites, and we're playing on ABC 6:30 primetime game. What are y'all's thoughts?
Texas cover over.
Simple. 3 words.
Yeah.
Texas cover over.
That's all I need to say.
Okay. Fair enough. Santiago?
I got Texas cover. Or actually, I don't think Texas is cover. I think I got Texas under. I think this is going to be a rough game, just like Michael kind of said earlier. I don't know. Texas on the road, we've kind of seen them have these slow starts, especially when they don't play like when they play these Big 12 teams. They kind of start off slow. They don't really come out with the same energy.
Yeah.
So I have them winning 27-13. I think it's going to be a rough game. You might see them down at some point. You might hold your breath a little bit, but I think they'll get the job done at the end of the day. But under for the spread.
See, I think Texas will get the job done, but I disagree in the fact that it's going to be a rough game. I don't think Baylor's defense is going to hold up against our receivers. I think Sark's going to have this team wired in. Immediately after the Alabama game, he was talking to the press about, I have to keep this team focused on Wyoming, and then after the Wyoming game, he said, we're 0-0 in Big 12. That's the only thing that matters. I think this Sark team is wired. I think we're going to go there, stomp Baylor, and run them out of their own place. Over. We're going to score a lot of points. They're going to take the over.
I hope so.
Yeah. And, all right, now moving on to the NFL. The Atlanta Falcons are playing at Detroit. Detroit are favored by 3 points. Sunday at 12. It's a fairly even matchup. I'm going to take Detroit here. Detroit, first week, they beat the Chiefs, which kind of turned some heads. And I like Amon St. Brown. He's a good receiver, so I'm going with the Lions. I want to see Detroit be good at football again. Too many poverty sports franchises over there.
Yeah.
So
I think for this week, I have to go with the Lions as well at home. They had a really tough loss last week at home to the Seahawks. They let the Seahawks come back against them. And I also just, I'm a Packers fan, so I'm still mad that the Falcons somehow beat us last week. So I don't think I can go with them this week. I can't get over it. So I got the Lions winning this one at home.
Yeah, I think this is our first, besides the Texas one, our first sweep. I think the Lions are a great team. They battled the Seahawks. They beat Kansas City in Kansas City, a very anticipated game. People thought Kansas City were going to blow them out. I mean, this team's hard to root against, Detroit, and they're a fun team. Campbell is a fun coach. Jared Goff is fun to watch when he's good. So yeah, I like the Lions.
So a Lions sweep. How about that?
It's an exciting game. Two teams are very similar. They're very, coming on the scene this year.
Yeah.
See.
Falcons are also 3-0, which is
Right.
when was the last time the Falcons were 3-0?
I couldn't tell
Justin
you.
Gooseman would know. Diehard Falcons fan, shout out to him in the control room. Yeah, moving on. Bills, Commanders, Sunday, another new game. I think Buffalo are the favorites. Us odd makers are per the odd makers, but I'm going Buffalo. Josh Allen is just too. Josh Allen ain't losing. No,
Yeah.
sorry, not hate to see it, but don't hate to see it. Hate to say it.
I mean,
Buffalo.
this Commanders team is 2-0. They got Eric Bieniemy is killing it on the offense. We're using Logan Thomas like he used to use Travis Kelce. I know you're shaking your head at me, but this team was picked against. Everyone picked against them in the Broncos game. Some people picked the Cardinals to beat us. This team likes to play as the underdog. So I think Buffalo definitely has the better chance to win, but I think Washington is going to come out with some fire.
You think
and
they
I
make the
it's gonna throw
playoffs?
off Buffalo.
It'd be cool to see him in the playoffs. It would be cool.
I think they might be able to. They got a hard schedule. They got the Bills. They got the Jets. They got the They got the Eagles twice, Cowboys twice.
Yeah,
And NFC East is tough, but I think with this game, I just have to go with the Bills. I know I don't want to let Zach down. But I think he might have some conflict of
reasonable.
interest going on here. Just think the Bills at home pretty dominant. So yeah, got the Bills this week.
Moving on, Los Angeles Chargers, Justin Herbert and company, playing at the Vikings. What do y'all think?
I don't know. I'm pretty this is a tough game. I mean, both teams 0-2. If you go 0-3, it's going to be really hard to make the playoffs. But I have to stick with the Chargers here. I think Justin Herbert, I just can't see him going down 3-0. And the last 2 weeks have been rough for him. Late game losses to the Titans and the Dolphins. So I think this week he's got to come out there and really prove himself as a top quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, you saw week 1 how devastated Jefferson was after their first loss, and then in week 2 against the Eagles, it was kind of like we did everything, but we still couldn't do it. So I mean, the Eagles are a great team. The Vikings, I think, are gonna come out firing, and also on top of that, the Chargers in meaningful games don't tend not to show up well. So I just can't see the Chargers winning this game with so much on the line. So yeah, Vikings.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Vikings. They had actually you raised some good points. They had like what 4 turnovers last week. Like they gave away. There was that play with Justin Jefferson. The ball came out of his hands and it ended up being a touchback. Touchback. Yeah, but I'm gonna go with the Vikings. I think they come out. I think they're 0-2. I think they come out and go win a ball game. I think Kirk Cousins gets him. You're from D.C., right? You're from Washington?
I'm from L.A., but raised the
LA.
right way.
Okay, L.A. Okay, yeah. Next, the Cowboys are playing at the Cardinals Sunday. Cowboys coming off a hot 2-0 start. They're looking pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't want to jinx it, but a lot of Cowboys saying that this is the year.
Say that every year, but
They say that every year.
I can start off. I think the Cardinals have been surprising teams. This is their 3rd NFC East team in now week 3. They played the Commanders and they played the Giants. They came out against the Giants up 28. It was 28-0. They came out against the Commanders and up 14. They come out firing, and this Cardinals defense plays with a fire that I have not seen before. They do not care what happens. They just want to hit hard and get you down. So I think the Cardinals. I think the Cowboys are Dak Prescott is not great at playing from behind. He's very good at holding leads, but when he needs a touchdown, when he needs a game-winning drive, I don't think he's there to execute. And I think if the Cardinals come out on top, come out firing like they did with the Commanders and Giants, then I think there's a good chance that the Cardinals can actually get away with this. And it's in Arizona.
Mm-hmm. This one's not as difficult for me. I think I just got the Cowboys winning. I don't think the Cardinals are going to put up a fight. Honestly, they're just taking for Caleb Williams.
Yeah, and I liked watching Dak Prescott. He's had a good start to the season, and I'm going with the boys. I'm going with the Cowboys. I'm going with the boys. Monday Night Football, Philadelphia Eagles are playing at Tampa Bay on ABC. Monday Night Football, prime time. Baker Mayfield and the Bucks. What do you think? Do you think they pull off the upset?
I really believe in this team. I mean, I've been watching them. I think their defense is really good. I believe in Baker as a leader. And he's still got those same weapons that Brady had on the Super Bowl team. He's got Chris Godwin, Mike Evans out there. I think they're going to get it done. I think Baker's just going to go in there, and he's going to lead the team.
Ikey, how about you give me your explanation before I explain?
I'm gonna go with the Bucks, and Baker Mayfield. He's coming off. He had a whole fiasco with the Browns. I mean, they let him go, and he's playing good football right now. And I'd like to see the Buccaneers shock some people. Mayfield has the Bucks at 2-0 right now. I know the Eagles are playing good football too, but it's at home. It's at Tampa, and I think Tampa's gonna pull it off.
I mean, guys, we're talking about Baker Mayfield here. I don't know what world we're on, but this is Baker Mayfield.
He's playing well.
Number 1 overall pick, Baker Mayfield.
Baker Mayfield on Monday Night Football against arguably the best team in the NFL. Look, this Bucks team, I'll give it to them. They're playing well. Baker is doing okay. He's doing good. But the running back, not the best. Rashawn White, he's nothing special. Mike Evans is like kind of slowing down. Godwin's good, but their defense is great. But the Eagles they overload them. Like Jalen Hurts, how do you stop Jalen? And you got Devontae Smith running down. The Eagles team is way too good. You saw how well the Vikings played against them. They gave the game away, but they did. The Vikings pretty much did everything they could. Like, this Eagles team is great. They're going into Tampa Bay, and I think they'll not only win but cover the 5-point margin. So yeah, I think that wraps things up. Thanks for joining us on 1-0 again, Santiago. Thank you for helping us out.
Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, it was a great time, great hour show. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week, same time.
And be sure to tune in College Press Box Monday nights at 9:30 and College Crossfire Wednesday nights at 9. And